I want to start off today by asking you a question, and I want you to be really honest with yourself about the answer here. How exhausted are you right now?
Yeah, that is the big question, isn't it?
It really is. And I don't just mean physically, from lack of sleep. I mean mentally. Because if you take a step back and look at the water we are all swimming in right now, we're living in an era that is absolutely obsessed with the hustle.
Right. Obsess.
We're constantly told that to get the life we want, we have to, well, we have to force it. We have to manifest it, grind for it, bend reality to our will.
Micromanage the universe.
Exactly. We're basically trying to micromanage the universe to ensure everything goes exactly according to our meticulously crafted 5-year plans. And it's just a massive amount of pressure. Honestly, it seems like a recipe for total burnout.
It really is. That anxiety of control, it's a very heavy baseline to live with. The modern standard for success really seems rooted in this assumption that if you aren't just white-knuckling the steering wheel of your life at all times, you're going to veer off a cliff.
Yeah, that if you let go for even a second, everything falls apart.
Exactly. We've internalized this idea that we are the sole architects of our universe, which, if you think about it, is a staggering cognitive load for one person to carry around every single day.
It's exhausting just talking about it, honestly. So today we are unpacking Zion Voice, episode 29, and it carries this rather bold title, The Most Powerful Secret to a Quantum Leap. Our mission is to explore this unique, highly countercultural blueprint for experiencing a massive sudden shift in your life. And the crazy part is that this blueprint involves doing the absolute opposite of what our hustle culture demands.
Right. It's not a manual for striving harder. It is a framework for completely letting go.
Yes. But to set the stage, before we really get into the mechanics of this framework, we need to look at how the modern world typically defines a quantum leap. Because usually when we hear that phrase, we picture something really aggressive, right?
Yeah, disruptive external action. We think of someone quitting their corporate job on a Tuesday to launch a tech startup.
Or moving across the globe overnight.
Exactly. Completely blowing up their current reality to start fresh. The assumption is always that massive change requires massive external force.
But the paradigm presented here defines a quantum leap as a profound internal realignment.
Yes. It makes the case that the most monumental leaps don't actually require you to move an inch physically. Today, we're going to trace the specific psychological and spiritual chain reaction that brings this kind of leap about.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the way this concept is redefined right out of the gate is really striking. The source is very explicit about the timeline of this shift.
And the timeline is not what most people would expect.
Not at all. It argues that a true quantum leap does not happen slowly. It's not this gradual, incremental slope that takes years of chipping away at a goal. It describes a singular moment where something deep within your psyche realigns.
A singular moment.
Right. And from that specific point forward, absolutely nothing feels the same again. It's a sudden, irreversible step up into a new reality.
The crucial distinction to make right after establishing that sudden timeline is how you actually arrive at that moment. The material emphasizes that this kind of shift is not something you force, but rather something you enter.
Something you enter. That phrasing is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is. Think about the difference in energy between those two words. Forcing implies resistance. It implies that the universe or your circumstances are pushing against you, and you have to exert this immense willpower to sledgehammer your way through a brick wall.
Yeah, that exhausting grind we were just talking about.
Exactly. Entering, on the other hand, implies that a door is already open. The space has already been prepared for you, and your only job is to just walk through the frame. The core thesis here is that the most powerful shift in your life does not begin with changing the outside world. It begins by shifting your internal posture.
I want to push back on that just a little bit, though, because as a listener who might be deeply embedded in the startup grind or the gig economy, the idea of just entering an open door sounds almost, I don't know, too passive.
It sounds a bit like wishful thinking, yeah?
Right. We spend our whole lives trying to break through those brick walls.
Yeah.
The door is already open. How do we actually find it? How do we walk through it? But the source does offer a very specific method, and it explicitly rules out manifestation or sheer willpower.
The doorway, according to this blueprint, is a specific kind of prayer, one that aligns you with Yahweh.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is how the material strips away the complexities of modern, hyper-individualized spirituality. It points directly back to ancient wisdom.
It specifically references the words of the Son of Yahweh, which many people would immediately recognize as the Lord's Prayer.
Right. It highlights these specific lines. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Now, regardless of someone's specific religious background, the psychological weight of those words is immense.
It is. And a really sharp point is made about those specific lines in the text. The argument is that these words were never meant to be a rote recitation.
They weren't designed to be something you just mumble before dinner.
Or panic pray when you're in a crisis, right? The claim is that they were meant to be fundamentally transformative. And the absolute hinge of this entire quantum leap rests on 4 simple words.
Your will be done. Those 4 words are the crux of the entire philosophy because they directly target the modern ego. When you utter those words and you actually mean them, you are forced to release what is called the illusion of control.
The illusion of control.
That phrase is vital. We genuinely believe we are controlling our lives by stressing over our calendars, networking relentlessly, and maneuvering every variable. But the assertion here is that this control is entirely illusory.
Let's ground that for a second, because the illusion of control is something we all fall for. It's like spending 3 weeks micromanaging a career plan, obsessing over every detail, networking yourself to the point of exhaustion to secure a very specific promotion.
And then you walk in on Monday morning.
And the company's restructuring, and that role doesn't even exist anymore.
Exactly. That is the illusion. You thought you were driving the car, but you were just sitting in the passenger seat with a plastic toy steering wheel, exhausting yourself, pretending to drive.
I love that analogy. You're making all the vroom vroom noises, but you aren't connected to the engine at all?
It's a perfect image. And handing over that toy steering wheel doesn't mean the car suddenly stops moving.
Right.
It just means you can finally relax your grip. You stop fighting the actual mechanics of the vehicle. The moment you genuinely say, your will be done, you drop that heavy, exhausting illusion and you step into a state of divine alignment. That release of control is exactly where the shift begins.
That brings us to the actual mechanics of this shift. Because one thing I really appreciate about this framework is that it doesn't just leave us with abstract spiritual concepts. It maps out a highly logical, step-by-step cascade of how this surrender practically plays out in your daily life.
It's essentially a psychological chain reaction.
Yes, it's a profound domino effect, and it all stems from that initial point of alignment we just discussed.
Let me walk through exactly how this chain reaction is laid out because it's surprisingly intuitive.
It starts with the mind. The logic goes, when your mind aligns, your thoughts change. And when your thoughts change, your decisions change. When your decisions change, your direction changes. And finally, when your direction changes, your life follows.
To anchor that cascade, the material references another ancient principle. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
The renewing of your mind.
Notice the sequence there. It doesn't say, be transformed by moving to a new city or be transformed by doubling your income. The transformation happens at the genesis point of all human action, the mind.
Let's look at how that actually plays out in reality.
Yeah.
Say you are someone who is constantly stressed about launching a new business. You are operating from a place of control and fear.
Gripping the toy steering wheel.
Exactly. But then you experience this internal alignment. You drop the illusion of control. Automatically, your mind changes. So your very first thought the next morning shifts from panic about failing to a genuine curiosity about what you can build today.
Because the fear is gone.
Right. And because your thought change, your decision changes. Instead of sending out 50 desperate, poorly crafted cold emails to force a result, you decide to have one authentic, meaningful conversation with a potential client.
And that single decision changes the direction of your entire week.
Yes, which ultimately changes the trajectory of your business. It all traces back to the mind no longer grasping for control.
That perfectly illustrates the broader philosophy. By changing the deeply held operating system of your mind, shifting it from anxious control to surrendered alignment, everything downstream of that mind naturally alters its course.
It flows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This reinforces the earlier point that transformation is never forced. It is simply entered as your newly aligned decisions naturally carry you into a new reality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because a very clear line in the sand is drawn between this philosophy and what is broadly referred to as what the world teaches.
The hustle culture we touched on earlier?
Right. The contrast presented here is stark. The world teaches you to chase outcomes. It teaches you to force results. It insists that you must bend reality to your will through sheer domination and acquisition.
But the alternative truth presented here is completely different. It is an alternative that is deeply comforting, but also deeply challenging to the modern ego.
Oh, so?
Well, the argument is that you do not step into a greater life by controlling everything around you. You step into it by becoming aligned within. Why? Because the framework suggests there is a version of your life that is already prepared, already ordered, already aligned with purpose.
Already prepared. That phrase is massive. If you truly internalize that concept, it completely neutralizes the anxiety of the gig economy hustle.
It really does.
You don't have to build your destiny from scratch in the dark without any blueprints. You don't have to desperately try to invent a successful path out of thin air. The paradigm suggests the path is already there, the house is already built. You just have to find the address and turn the key.
But this is where the nuance is critical. Because the skeptic might hear the house is already built and think, well, great, I'll just sit on my couch and wait for the keys to fall into my lap.
Right, they think it's an excuse to do nothing.
Exactly. But dropping the illusion of control does not mean dropping your participation in life. Walking into a prepared life means you are taking aligned action, not frantic action.
Aligned action.
The quantum leap being described isn't a chaotic jump into something random. It's a shift into what was already written. You are simply catching up to the timeline of your actual purpose. The action you take from that place feels entirely different.
And the practical results of that shift sound like the ultimate antidote to modern burnout. You stop striving and begin flowing. You stop forcing and begin walking with clarity. You stop chasing and begin becoming.
Striving, forcing, chasing versus flowing, walking, becoming.
The energy of those two sets of words is night and day. One sounds like a frantic sprint on a treadmill where you never actually get anywhere. The other sounds like a purposeful walk down a clear, well-lit path.
What you are highlighting there is a shift from an existence based on lack to an existence based on trust.
That's a great way to put it.
When you are constantly chasing and forcing, you are operating from a core belief that the universe is scarce. You believe that if you don't aggressively take what you want, you will end up with nothing.
But the counterargument provided here is that you were never meant to create your life alone. You were meant to align with the one who already sees the end from the beginning.
Exactly.
So if we are dropping the illusion of control and stepping out of that scarcity mindset, what does this actually look like the next time the listener sits down to pray or meditate or set their intentions? Because for a lot of people, prayer is basically presenting a cosmic wish list.
Oh, absolutely. It's highly transactional.
Right. Give me this job. Give me this relationship. Make this specific problem go away. It's fundamentally demanding. Give me what I want.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that demanding style of prayer is still deeply rooted in the illusion of control. It's still you trying to dictate the terms of reality based on your incredibly limited human perspective.
We're back to holding the plastic steering wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are essentially saying, I have analyzed all the variables. I know exactly what is best for my life, so please execute my 5-year plan. It places the burden of being the architect of the universe squarely back on your own shoulders.
Which is exactly what causes the burnout.
Precisely. But when you truly understand the nature of alignment, your approach to prayer fundamentally evolves. It shifts from, give me what I want, to align me with what is right.
Align me with what is right. Wow. That requires a tremendous amount of humility. You are essentially admitting that maybe, just maybe, your incredibly detailed vision board isn't actually the highest and best use of your life.
Right. You are letting go of what you think you need to make room for what you are actually meant to do.
And it is that specific prayer, the prayer of alignment, that acts as the catalyst for the quantum leap. Because when you align with that higher design, you are rescued.
Think about the modern paralysis of choice. We are constantly drowning in the anxiety of infinite possibilities.
Oh, for sure. Terrified we are swiping the wrong way on an app, taking the wrong job, or making the wrong move.
But through this alignment, you trade the exhausting state of being lost in possibility for the profound relief of being anchored in purpose.
Anchored in purpose. I really like that imagery. Because an anchor doesn't mean you are stuck or trapped. It means you are safe in the storm.
You aren't going to be blown off course by every passing trend.
Or every new productivity hack, or the external pressure of what your peers are doing. From that anchored place, life begins to shift. Not by force, but by design. Everything starts to fall into its proper place simply because you are finally standing in your proper place.
That is the ultimate realization here. Life's greatest progress, its most profound quantum leaps, aren't achieved by pushing the river. They are achieved by aligning your boat with the current that is already flowing toward your ultimate destination.
Which brings us to the final, incredibly direct instruction this blueprint leaves us with. It is a call to action for anyone who is tired of pushing the river.
The guidance is beautifully simple.
It is. The next time you pray, do not just speak. Align. Say, your will be done, and actually mean it. Because in that single genuine moment of surrender, you are stepping into a life that no longer needs to be forced. It simply needs to be revealed.
Connecting this back to your daily reality right now, it is undeniably revolutionary to try and live this way. And we have to acknowledge that it is incredibly difficult.
Very difficult. It goes against everything we're taught.
Trading the familiar, albeit exhausting, pursuit of control for a state of profound trust goes against almost every survival instinct we've developed in our modern, hyper-competitive world.
It requires a massive amount of courage to stop forcing the pieces of your life together and trust that they already fit.
But if this framework holds true, the reward for that courage is a life of unprecedented clarity, flow, and purpose.
It really is a total paradigm shift if you can actually put it into practice. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today as you get back to your routine. Think about everything we've unpacked regarding the heavy illusion of control and the profound relief of a true quantum leap. Ask yourself this: what is the one specific area of your life right now where you are exhaustingly trying to bend reality to your will? And what entirely new, unexpected path might reveal itself if you completely stop forcing it today?